the three hee-hees at the end of the three sadhus. It's our tradition in this place. Uh-oh. No trouble. 2 and 3. You know this is recorded over there. My goodness. Okay. So, what happens after the chanting in the evenings? We have the Q&A session. We don't tell us slow down. No need to rush. Excellent. Oh, but we always go not for quantity, but for quality. So I'm sure there's not that many questions, but they're high quality questions. In my dreams. So it's an opportunity to ask questions about meditation, about Dhamma, about things I know about. But it's a waste of time asking me about marriage. I've never been married. Or about children. I haven't had children. Or about the stress of work. I have that. I'm a CEM. You know what CEM means? Chief Executive Monk. So anyway, an opportunity to ask questions. But first of all, thank you for letting me have a nice, easy afternoon. I hope you enjoyed a nice, restful afternoon. And you saw my cave. How many went to my cave today? Oh, wow, a lot of you. That's actually where I live when I'm not teaching over here or going to Hong Kong or Indonesia. So it's not really a tourist place. It's actually real. So because I'm over here today and the next days, that's why it was open to have a look. And it's so wonderful being able to live in a nice, peaceful, calm, simple place. Because in my life, I just go many, many places. And sometimes when you go to Hong Kong, you put me up in hotel. You go to Indonesia, you sleep all over the place. And when you go here, I feel like I'm a monk again. A nice simple cave, hardly anything there, but just that's all you need. And mostly because it's nice and quiet in there. Hopefully you just close both doors and turn the lights off. It's pitch black in there. And when you close both doors, you can't hear any sounds at all from outside. So it means that it's my little escape, where I can go and have a nice, peaceful, quiet time. So that's the cave. The monks made that for me. It's not a naturally occurring cave, but it's a place where I can just, in my lifestyle, I can just go in there and be an ordinary monk again, just peaceful and calm. So nice you actually see that. So anyway, those of you who think of downsizing, because having a big house is so much cleaning. So maybe wherever you live, in Hong Kong or in Indonesia, just sell your house and just buy a little cave. It's so nice, so easy to look after, and that's all you need. Wonderful. Anyway, first question. How can we be kind to the anger-eating demon? Past, which is traumatic, fear of uncertainty in the future. It is some of the teachings which you hear here, they work. And many psychiatrists, doctors, people in the most amazing professions are actually making use of these. And the anger-eating monster, how it works, maybe tomorrow when we set up the Scotty's over there, and Burr, have we got the projector? So to do the Sutta class, yeah, tomorrow we need to get the projector. It's good to actually see if we can find it somewhere. But it's also at the conference which I gave in Toronto, I mentioned the anger-eating monster, and just to show how wide and far these teachings go, there was somebody showed me a video of people plagiarizing my anger-eating monster story. They made it into a cartoon. You seen that? Yes. by this Afro-American guy. You seen that one?
Yes.
Okay. Wow, where did you see that?
It's been posted on Facebook.
Oh, on Facebook. I've never been on Facebook. I've been to Facebook headquarters, in Mountain View. And for those of you who don't know, this is a little bit of interesting information. Facebook headquarters in San Francisco, they built their own big campus, so they had to build their own road, and they've got their own, not their email address or Facebook address, this is their postal address. You know what their postal address is? The road is called Hacker Drive, and they're number 1 Hacker Drive. They've got a big their Facebook 1 Hacker Drive, Mountain View. But anyway, that it's wonderful to see how far that has gone. And this was helping with some of the, I imagine, targeting the Afro-American kids in the United States. How to be kind, even if it has been traumatic. And this was a group here over in Perth, actually they're all over Australia, Australian Society of Survivors of Torture and Trauma. So these are refugees coming to a country like Australia, free in their body, but still carrying around the memories of those prisons where they really have gone through hell and managed to survive somehow. Multiple rapes, beatings, thinking they would die. And sometimes when you hear some of the stories, it is really skin-crawling stuff. Very, very terrible things they've happened. So they come to a nice, rich, free country like Australia, but they're still back in the prisons, being beaten, being raped, and being tortured. But this particular story, which I told them some time ago, it works, and it's part of their program. So you've all heard about the opening the door of your heart simile. It's one of my favorite similes. It's the title of the first book in English, Opening the Door of Your Heart. So this is how it's taught to people who are survivors of trauma, and how it's something which works for them. And please excuse me, I doubt if you've been through the sorts of pain and suffering and hopelessness and degradation that some of these people tell me they've been through. But what you do is, when you feel comfortable, you can't force this, when you feel safe enough to face those demons, monsters in the past, you imagine a heart in your chest, a Valentine's Day heart, not the real heart. If you see a picture of a real heart, you've maybe seen that being doctor, and it doesn't look anything like the Valentine's Day heart. Actually, I don't know where they got that Valentine's Day heart from. But anyway, it's the same as in the playing cards, which I'm just going to say one of my favorite jokes, which I say at weddings. And actually you told that at the wedding you conducted, about that marriage is like a pack of playing cards. Yeah. Marriage is like a pack of playing cards. It starts off with 2 hearts, and then a diamond. And after a few years, it finishes with a club and a spade. Okay, it's a bit negative, but I think you can understand that. But anyway, the hearts they have in playing cards are like the Valentine's Day hearts. So you visualize a big heart in your chest area. That's your heart. And you imagine it has doors in it, 2 doors like the entrance to this hall, or this one over here, which we never use. And imagine those 2 doors opening out. And inside your own heart is that part of you which you're at peace with, which you've embraced. the kind, the good part, the very wonderful memories you have of your past. The times when you were, playing with your father, playing soccer with him one free afternoon, or looking after your mother, having a wonderful time with your brother and other friends. All those wonderful memories, the good part of you, and the part of you you're proud of, all the good stuff you've done, that's already in your heart. But then you look out from inside your heart to outside in the cold, on the hard ground. There are those parts of you which you've not really embraced yet, you've pushed out, you've been trying to get rid of. All the times you made mistakes, big mistakes, which you are ashamed of. All those parts of you which were badly treated, cheated by your loved ones, but even worse, sometimes tortured, raped, beaten. And those little parts of you, they're who you were. The little girl, the little boy, years and years ago, and you've kept them outside. They're out there, not respected, pushed away, trying to forget them and get rid of them. That's the negativity which creates the problem. And identifying, that's this little boy, I was Peter before, the little boy who was teased and bullied, the little girl who was so badly treated. You can recognize that's you a long time ago, but that's part of you, that's your history. And you imagine a staircase coming out from the top, going down to the bottom. And when that staircase reaches the bottom, it can connect you with that part of you you felt ashamed, guilty, so traumatized by. And you tell those little parts of you kept outside your heart, the door's open to you as well. Come up, come in. You're part of who I am. So instead of trying to reject it, get rid of it, snuff it out, you invite them in. And all these people who have been so terribly, terribly tortured, it's amazing. They got such bravery, such courage, but they have a path to be able to do this, a little imaginary exercise. And imagine these little beings, this little woman who was held and raped and beaten, thought she was going to die, coming up the staircase, terrified whether she will be accepted. But you encourage her, come in, come in. The door of my heart is open to you. And this wonderful little moment when they reach the top of the stairs. The door of my heart is open to you as well. Come in. And it's beautiful. That's a real trauma, but it's a trauma of catharsis. And all of those little beings who were so badly treated, and those little beings which treated other people badly, all of them, without exception, kindness goes to all beings. May all beings be happy and well. That means all parts of you. Stuff which is just so painful to remember, the stuff you're ashamed of, and as well as the good part. And all of those little girls, those little boys, climb up the steps, and one by one, they are welcomed, embraced, loved. And that's such an amazing experience when that happens. Which means they're not trying to get rid of the demon anymore. Not saying, get out of here, you don't belong, this was unfair, this is not right. It's happened. Come in. And it's amazing that there they find freedom. Now, not just their body is free, their emotions are free as well. And it's pretty sort of heavy stuff, pretty controversial, but my goodness, it works. And that's still being done. So the anger-eating demon is so powerful, that story. And you can use it in so many different ways. You do like the fear of the future, when people have cancers. Tumor, get out of my body, you don't belong. What happens? That stress, that fear, feeds many of the tumors. It's really a crazy thing to say, but when you say, welcome tumor, thank you for coming to visit me. Body's big enough, we can accept you as well. Imagine what that does. That sort of lack of negativity, lack of anger, you're not feeding it anymore. You have to do it properly. If you say, tumor, the door of my heart's open to you. That you can stay here. I love you, tumor. And then about a week later say, why aren't you getting out of here? Why aren't you reducing? That is just, no, it's not the 100%. You're just using this as a strategy because you really hate the tumors. That's why it doesn't work sometimes, because people don't do it properly. But you say, well, thank you for coming to visit me. Then you find the things change. They disappear. Amazing just what happens when you don't give things anger, but you give things the opposite, care. Amazing teaching. So, your past, which is traumatic, I'm sure it hasn't been as traumatic as some of the things which I've heard from some of the people who have been tortured, really big time. And fear of uncertainty in the future. That's why, just the door of my heart's open to that future. I think next Thursday, no, not this Thursday, Thursday week, we're going to get the annual visit from the Cancer. They started off as the Cancer Support Society, then it became the Cancer Wellness Society, and now they've called Solaris, I think, or whatever. But anyway, for I think 27 years now, I've been going to their place once a year. They've been coming to Bodhinyana Monastery once a year for 27 years, every year without fail. And you couldn't help but ask them, why me? Why do you keep inviting me? You can see on YouTube, you can get all the books. So why? And why Buddhist monk and no one else? And that's when they told me this story, the first time which I went to teach meditation and teach some Dharma to the people with cancer in one of the wealthiest suburbs of Perth, in Cottesloe. You probably, those of you who are going to a bit of a tour around at the end of the retreat, that's one place everyone goes, Cottesloe Beach, a very, very wealthy suburb. And just a little bit away from Cottesloe Beach, maybe 5-minute walk, they have the used to be called Cancer Wellness Association. And they said the first time I went there to give a talk, one of the women put up her hand to ask the question. She had a breast cancer. She went through the radiation therapy and chemotherapy, and she got it into remission. But then she was so afraid. It was so unpleasant, so hard, to go through the treatment for cancer. But she managed to pull through and get it into remission. But she kept thinking, if it recurs again, I can't handle that again. I can't do that anymore. It's just too painful, too difficult. And so she had this fear. What would happen if it came back? And apparently, that she had gone to all these counselors and therapists and psychologists, and no one could help her. She was just so anxious with what would happen if it would come back. So when I came along, she put her hand up and said, I've just recovered from a breast cancer, and I'm so concerned, worried about the future. What would happen if it came back? And this little smart aleck monk, was much thinner and much younger then. And I said to her, well, what would happen if it didn't come back? And she got it straight away. She hadn't heard that answer before. I said, that's what the problem is. We look at the future with a negative mind. What would happen if it came back? What would happen if something else occurred which I don't like? And the answer was, what would happen if it didn't come back? Just that other opportunity, that other way of looking, that sort of changed her. And so apparently, I never recognized her, but every time I go there, the cancer never came back, but she comes back every year. It worked, and that's why seeing things in a slightly different way, that's what happens. So for the fear for the future, if she kept on thinking like that, what would happen if it came back? What would happen if it came back? What would happen if it came back? She'd have been so stressed out, so worried, it would have come back. So this is how we use the anger-eating monster story, not because it's some smart response, but it actually works. So that is how we can be kind to the anger-eating demon. The past is traumatic. Open it up. It takes the pain away. It takes the fear away, the stigmatization of whatever happened to you. Be kind to it. And it just softens so much your past. It vanishes. It's not a problem anymore. It works. And the same with the fear of uncertainty in the future. We always think, what would happen if it... as I said yesterday, what happened if I was in an aircraft and exploded? What would happen if I caught some terrible disease? What would happen if people didn't like my jokes and they sent me to jail? Because sometimes they can do that in some countries. What would happen if? The answer is, what would happen if it didn't? So that is how we stop the fear of uncertainty. Or like the other story, which I've been saying along, it was something which you saw in one of the most wisest places you can get great teachings from is from cartoons. Peanuts cartoon. Charlie Brown and Snoopy. And this was such a brilliant little piece of philosophy and positive thinking. Charlie Brown says, one day all of us must die. Can you argue with that? This was Charlie Brown said that. One day all of us must die. That is true, but not wise. The dog, who is always wiser than human beings in the cartoons, replied, yes, all of us one day must die, but all of us, most days, don't die. I think I said that last night, didn't I? Yeah. But that's a wonderful little difference between a truth which is negative and a truth which is positive. And it does change everything. Yeah, all of us one day will die, but all of us, most days, don't die. That's pretty obvious, isn't it? But we forget that. So that is how to be kind to the future. Kind and wise. And then you don't worry so much. So, enjoy your life before it ends. Instead of worrying about it every day, what's the point? Might as well end right now. If forgiveness and patience is part of meditation practice, how can I effectively develop wisdom of practice, patience and forgiveness? Easy. You have so many opportunities for patience, such as when you're waiting for someone to get out the toilet cubicle so you can go. I must admit that sometimes people are very kind to me at my age. I've got lots of followers and sometimes they get me business class, but on purpose. I have to get economy class sometimes, and you have to wait for the toilet. I remember once, one of the first times, I went to visit UK from Bangkok, and I was sitting by the window seat, and next to me was this, I'm not being gender specific, enormous woman. I mean, she was really fat. And so there was no way I could climb over her to get to the toilet. Even though, you're not supposed to do that as a monk anyway. But, so it's a long way from Bangkok to Europe. I had to wait and wait and wait and wait. That was patience. But when you're really patient, you're waiting for the opportunity. Just like the cat, catching the mouse. You're waiting there, poised, and as soon as that woman moved, I was out. Really fast, got to a second toilet, and I must admit, I wasn't patient when I did my business. I had to get it done quickly so I could get back before she got back to her seat, which I managed to do. So it's amazing just how the things I learned as a monk in Thailand about being patient, they really helped me in many other parts of my life. Of course it's important to be patient. We always want it now. Doesn't matter, it'll come later on. Don't be in a big rush. That's what you do in work. But this isn't work. Remember, it's Club Med. It's a holiday camp. You deserve that. All your really good karma in the past has now come to fruition. And you're in Jhana Grove, Club Med. Relax. And then you find this is where the great meditations happen. Weird, but so true. When you chase things, they run away from you. When you sit down quietly, they come to see you. Weird, but true. So, is forgiveness and patience is part of meditation practice? How can I effectively develop wisdom practice with patience and forgiveness? So easy. Forgiveness is not carrying around the past. Why do you carry that around? Haven't you got enough baggage already without worrying about who did what to whom and why they did it? And wouldn't you like forgiveness back? How many of you have made mistakes? I have. One of them is talking too long. It's already sort of running out of time. So you let go of the past. You don't judge. So that way you're free. Why should I allow other people's stupidity to make me upset, to take away my happiness? It's crazy. You may have somebody who really cheats you, takes away all your money, just calls you really bad names. Yeah, they can steal my money, they can steal all the tools in the workshop, they can take away my reputation, but they will never be able to steal my happiness. I just won't let people steal that. I'm going to be happy no matter what people call me. Fatso. So I'm happy. Sometimes people call me a pig, and I go oink oink. You know what happened once? It's absolutely true. I went in Nolamara Centre one day. You're going to go there on Friday. I was talking to someone standing by the door, and this Chinese woman came in, I think from mainland China. She took one look at me, and she started rubbing my belly. It's supposed to be good luck, rubbing the belly of the fat Buddha. I wasn't upset. I thought that was really, really cute. So don't you try it though. You don't need it. So that's why no need to get offended. You develop wisdom and patience and forgiveness. So that means that you can have a much more relaxed mind. Other people can steal so many things, but don't let them steal your kindness and your happiness. That is yours to protect. Dear Ajahn, who are the monks you most admired? I better say the monk sitting next to me, otherwise he won't look after me. He's a very good monk, Mudita. But it's not just the great teachers, but also the people who make progress. And that's one of the lovely things which I must admit gives me a lot of happiness, honestly, Venerable, is when, after a while, somebody goes off and gives a talk. And the Nolamara talks, the Friday night talks, that is quite sort of scary the first time you give a talk there. People always tell me that giving talks in public are the most scariest things a human being can do. And over in Nolamara, there's 300 people usually sitting in front of you, just looking at you, staring at you. And worse, there's a big camera, and there's over 1,000 people, usually more, watching you online. So that's pretty scary, just to relax and give a good talk. And so when a person gives a talk, I call them my babies. Because, I don't sort of have a wife and give birth to kids, but you train them, you see the nice little embryo of the anagarikas, the people in white, and then they become the real baby when they become novices, and then you look after them like any parent does and bring them up, and then just like you, that when you have children and when they succeed in life, it makes mum and dad so happy. That's my boy. And that's what happens with these people. They give a, sorry?
Father.
Yeah, yes, Dad. So when they give really good talks and you see them sort of grow up and then people sort of get very inspired by them, that shows me that this is a very good path of good teaching. There's a training happening here. For years I've been to Indonesia and Hong Kong, and you've heard me call this place a monk factory, and Dhammasara the nun's factory. You're going there, I think, next week sometimes, and you say, well, you supported it, so where's the products? And you see them, and the product comes out really good, high-quality product. And then that really inspires people. It's not just Ajahn Brahm show, it's a Sangha. Training, and people being able to be confident, inspiring, kind, helpful, being able to work and to forgive other people. So, when you first start here, sometimes some of the monks have arguments, don't like one another. But it's amazing, over the years, they let go, they learn how to forgive. Because if monks can't forgive, who can? And then be kind to one another. And that is what comes out in your Dhamma talks. It's not the substance. Anyone can learn 4 noble truths and just chant 4 noble truths, but actually to live them. Everyone can say, may all beings be happy and well, or else I'm going to hit you. But actually being able to practice that and inspire other people, it is possible. And that's what I'm really, really proud of. So, thank you, son. And there's a lot of them like that, which is nice. So those are the ones I most admire. Not ones who are arahats and stuff. Yeah, they don't need admiration anymore. They don't need support. When we feel that something is not fair, how are we supposed to react? You know, just down the road from here, 6 kilometers, you can go and visit the nuns' monastery, you can go visit my cave, but don't go visiting this place. It's the prison. There's a prison up there. And you go to places like that to teach, but also to learn. Now, Philip Mudita goes up there to teach now and again, but you also learn a lot there. And this was years and years ago. This old prisoner came to see me, and he told me, he said, look, Ajahn Brahm, I respect you. You know, what you've done for this people in this prison, you know, you're the real deal, so I'm not going to lie to you. And he said, I've been put in jail for a crime that I didn't commit. I didn't do that robbery. I know people will say that, and maybe you won't trust people already in prison, but honestly, Ajahn Brahm, I'm not lying to you. I did not do that crime. And people are put in jail for things they didn't do, either set up by their enemies or just, like this, one of my favorite stories is, this was President Trump. He was pretty fed up with the CIA and the NSA, and so he was trying to prove that the NPD, the New York Police Department, was much more effective. So he did a test. He released a rabbit into a forest. So CIA, FBI, and the original story was the LAPD. So let's call it the LAPD. Released a rabbit into the forest and told the CIA to go and find the rabbit. And the CIA had all this really expensive surveillance equipment, drones going over the forest, you know, with thermal imaging, the latest technology, and they surveyed the whole forest, and from satellites as well. And they put in a report 3 months later to President Trump. Actually, it doesn't work because he hasn't been in 3 months yet, but it doesn't matter. Forget the details. Saying, our survey shows there are no rabbits in this forest. So then they said in the FBI. And the FBI went in there with all their guns. They shot up most of the forest. And they also, 1 month, they put in their report, there's no rabbit in the forest. And then they said in the LAPD and the Los Angeles Police Department, they went into that forest, and 4 hours later, so fast, they brought out this big bear, all bruised and cut, with his hands in the air. Okay, I admit it, I'm a rabbit. I can't tell that story when I go to LA, otherwise I'm in big trouble. Anyway, sometimes people do get set up, that's the truth of the matter. So anyway, this guy came up and said, I did not do that robbery, I didn't do it. And the way he said it, his body language, I actually believed him. It was actually true, he never did that crime. And what do you do? A compassionate monk? You know, I know people, you know, you've got resources. So I was just thinking, just on the spot, who can I call? You know, maybe I can get some media, some people in the newspapers involved, maybe TV or something, to try and prove this guy's innocence. He's been put in jail for something he never did. And as I was thinking like that, he interrupted me with this really cheeky smile. He said, but Ajahn Brahm, there were so many other robberies where I was not caught. I guess this is fair. And he laughed and I laughed and I thanked him. And I forgot the law of karma, and he reminded me of it. You feel that something is not fair to you, Is it fair? How many times have you made a mistake or done something, you cheated on your taxes, you were sort of speeding down the freeway, you did cheat on somebody and you weren't caught. And now you are for something you didn't do. Yeah. Fair. Karma. Was it fair? The law of karma usually says probably it was fair. You're just paying off your old debts. The times you got away with it, now you're busted. So it's a great little story. That's how I deal with it. It's not fair. Why me? I tell Mike, why do I have to work so hard? And because my last life, I was a very lazy monk. Now I have to make up for it. Please, can you give us a guided meditation? Yeah, very easy. You can actually, right now, close your eyes. Shut up. That's my guided meditation. Close your eyes and shut up. Maybe try that tomorrow. We'll do one tomorrow. That'd be a good idea, tomorrow morning. Part of the talk. Please tell us your coffin story. How many of you... Okay, here we go. You asked for it. Don't blame me. The coffin story. There was some... Shall we turn the lights down? I better come to turn the lights so you know where... Oh, Della, you're closer. So turn the lights down. It's a spooky story. Okay. Wow, that's really good. No, put some on. Okay, very good. Okay, gives us some atmosphere. So there was a gentleman, a man, who came to the temple to listen to a talk. And after the talk had been completed, he had to walk home. He didn't live that far away, but there was a shortcut. Always say, never take the shortcut, because a shortcut was through the cemetery. But he thought, I'm not afraid of ghosts. So he took the shortcut. His first big mistake. And as he was walking through the cemetery, they did not have as many street lights as like you have on real roads. So it was very dark. But he could still see his way. And he got to halfway, no trouble at all. But just past halfway, he felt a bit strange. Have ever you felt when you're walking that something is following you? He couldn't hear it at first. He just felt that something or someone was following him. And as he got closer to the end of the cemetery, he was listening really hard, and he thought he heard something going bump, bump, bump. And many times you think, oh, just imagination, because when you are afraid, sometimes you make up things, they're not real. But then, as he almost got to the end of the cemetery, it really sounded like not imaginary. Bump, bump, bump. He wondered what the heck this could be. And now he made his second mistake. He looked around. And when he looked around, his heart almost stopped. Because what he saw was a coffin. Not horizontal, but vertical coffin. Bump, bump, bump. Going after him, with all the cobwebs still on it and the dirt, the soil just dripping off the coffin. It obviously just risen out of a grave and was bump, bump after him. He was terrified. And so he started running as fast as he could. His house was not that far away. But as he was running, the coffin, bump, 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 went faster. And he was too scared to turn around because he could hear the coffin, bump, 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 getting closer and closer to him. It was catching up. He just got to the front of his garden gate. He never opened the gate. He jumped right over it. And he ran down the little path to the front door. And just as he got to the front door, the coffin came to the garden gate. Bump, bump, bump! And broke down the garden gate. And he picked out his keys from his pocket, tried to put them in the door. And you're really stupid when you're afraid. He dropped the keys. Bump, 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 as the coffin was coming after him. And he picked up the keys as soon as he could. It didn't matter which one. He couldn't choose because bump, bump, the coffin was almost caught up with him. The first key it was so lucky. It was the right key. He turned the lock, opened the door, jumped inside and slammed the door just as the coffin came to the door. You could see it through the glass, this coffin. He was sweating, his heart was pounding, but he'd made it into the safety of his house. Bump! As the coffin started to bump against the door. Bump! With a lot of force. Bump! And the wood started to splinter. Bump! The hinges started to give way. So he ran up the stairs, to the top of the stairs, and as he got to the top of the landing, bump! And even the front door gave way. And there he could see this coffin turning around looking for him, seeing him at the top of the stairs. There's only one other room up there with a lock, and that was the restroom, the toilet. So he went inside the bathroom and locked the door, and he could hear bump, 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 bump. The coffin was climbing the stairs. Bump! Against the bathroom door. And he was so terrified. If that supernatural coffin could break down a garden gate and the front door of a house, how could a bathroom door withstand such supernatural force, demonic force? And soon, bump! As the coffin started to break down the bathroom door. Bump! Wood splintering, hinges giving way. One more bump! And the coffin had broken down the door. There's nowhere else to run. He had his hands spread out against the wall, trying to protect himself. And as the coffin came towards him, he took the first thing from the shelf in the bathroom and threw it at the coffin. And the bottle broke, and all this brown liquid went all over the coffin, and the coffin stopped. It was cough medicine. Just as the pharmacy said, this cough medicine stops the coughing. That's a terrible joke, but you asked for it. Okay, the light's on again, please, now. How do we love somebody or something like our family, our work, without being attached to it? This is where you find out the difference between love and attachment when your child has to go off and get married in another country, when maybe your mother or your father is in the deathbed and they're about to die. If you know what love really is, You look at your loved one, maybe your father in the hospital in the ICU, and you say to your father, Dad, I love you so much. Please let go. Do not worry about us. You've given us so much for all those years you looked after us. Now we love you enough to let you go. Dad, the whole family gives you permission to go. It's a beautiful thing to do. That's what real love is. Not to think of yourself and just how you'll miss that person, but they're suffering, they're in pain, they're about to die. So the greatest act of love is learning how to let somebody go. Attachment is when your poor old mother is really suffering, but she's still hanging on there. She won't pass on. Why? Because she's worried about you. You're just prolonging an inevitable. So I've done that so many times, and it's such a beautiful thing. One of the first times was Jenny and Steve. Still Jenny comes, see her every now and again. But Steve had some really, really terrible cancer, and he was so young, in his 20s, incredibly fit. He used to go whitewater rafting. And he got a cancer, and she was a Buddhist. He wasn't so much one, but I went around to see him many, many times. And then there was something wrong. You know, you see someone when they're really in the late stages of cancer, so thin, so weak, and they used to be so strong and fit. But it was strange. He should have been dead, but he was, 2 or 3 days, he was still hanging on there. And that's when I understood. And I asked Jenny, the wife, who was caring for him so well, Jenny, have you given Steve permission to die yet? Give him permission to die. And it was such a beautiful memory to see her. She didn't answer me. She understood straight away. She jumped on the bed and very tenderly put her hands around just this skeleton with skin on it. This man she spent so much time with, the one she loved so much. She looked him in the eyes and said, Steve, I give you permission to die. Don't keep trying to keep alive for me. I don't want you to suffer. I want you to be free. It's such a beautiful moment. And she called me the next day that he died that night. That's all he needed. Imagine if that was you. Someone, maybe your daughter, your son, maybe your partner. And the last thing you want to do is hurt them by dying. So she was wise enough, look, I love you so much to let you go. And he died straight away, or not straight away, but a few hours later. And that's all he needed. Because the worst thing he could possibly do to someone he loved so much was to hurt her. And now she gave him permission to be free. That's what real love is. The love which allows you to let something go. Next question. How does a transfer of merits work? I usually do TT, telegraphic transfer. Very cheap, very efficient. How does transfer of merits work? In the case of the receiver of the merits, I person who passed away did not know. Would the Devas tell the receiver of the merits? Does the transfer of merits work for Devas and human realms? Thanks, Ajahn Brahm, for your explanations. It does not work for everybody. For example, if you give $100 donation to, say, Jhana Grove, then it counts. But if you give the same $100 to Warren Buffett, it would just be such a drop in the ocean, you would probably not even notice it. So if a person is being reborn in a heaven realm, they are so so wealthy in their happiness and their merits that what you add to them is hardly anything. So there's no need to transfer merits to, say, me when I pass away. I've got too many. So just don't even think about it. But if it's someone who's really in a lot of problems, like Donald Trump. Transfer merits to him. He needs it. So, in the simile, that if people have been reborn in a lower realm, then that's where the merits really matter. So how do you know if your mother, your father have been in a lower realm or a higher realm? Well, you probably know that they've been a bit naughty in their life. So, you know what you can do. But even so, just the benefit of the doubt, just transfer the merits to them. How does it work? It is such a common occurrence that if you have a loved one who's really close to you, back in, say, Hong Kong or in Jakarta, and suddenly they have an accident, maybe the car crashes, they're taken to hospital. How many of you know that something's wrong? Be a long way away, but you know something's wrong, something's happened. How on earth does that happen? The classic case, because I was visiting Melbourne, and I read this, it was in the Melbourne Age newspaper. It was a vet in Melbourne, single guy, but he had a dog. So he was going to a country, Victoria, for a weekend party with his friends. So he left the dog at home with somebody, and halfway on the journey, he wrote about this, and it was published in the paper. It's a true story. Halfway on the journey, he was overcome with emotions. He started crying and weeping for no reason at all, he said. And, a guy, he never wept like that for as long as he could remember. And it was so intense, he had to pull over into the emergency lane because he couldn't see. It was dangerous to himself and other drivers. He pulled over about 10 or 15 minutes, to what he said, to get himself together again. And it was just flooded with these really strange emotions. He didn't know where it came from. Just, what you call out of the blue. And then, when he was together enough, he drove and got to the house where there was a message waiting for him. At precisely that moment, he never knew at the time, when he was overcome with emotion, his dog had been hit by a car and died. There's no way he could know that, but it happened at exactly that time. His dear dog, which he loved, was killed by a car, and maybe 100 kilometers away, and he knew. And the emotions just were so strong he couldn't even drive his car, had to pull over. That is not uncommon. How does that work? That same channel by which we transfer merits to our loved ones. We're doing something really good and kind to our loved ones. They know, especially when they're passed away. They're not so busy. But even here they can know it. Saying that one of the experiments which maybe we do here, if I remember it, where we do a loving kindness meditation. And just at the end of the retreat, when you really got some power going in your mind. And I haven't done this for a long time now. I used to do this every retreat. Say, now think of one relation somewhere, as long as they're not here. They could be in Hong Kong or back in sort of Medan somewhere in Indonesia. Just visualize them and really zap them with as much loving kindness as you can possibly get. Really give it full power. Don't hold anything back. And you do that, and because you've been meditating, inspired, it's amazing just how much energy and power you can create. And then I look at the clock and I usually write down the time. And at the end of the retreat I say, now, you zapped that friend or that loved one at 4:03 p.m. Perth time. Now tonight, ring that person up and just have an ordinary conversation. Oh, just been on a retreat. I thought I should check in with you. And then just mention in passing, oh, what were you doing at 4:03 on that day? Check. And one of the reasons I don't do that anymore is because I get all these phone calls in the evening. Ajahn Brahm, it worked. So you can try that for yourself. Don't call me afterwards and say it works. I know it works. But it just convinces you. You do your scientific experiment that when you have lots of power, and even they're alive, and you zap them with loving kindness, with goodwill, they feel it. They know it. Not maybe just enough to say it's weird at the time, but there's an effect there which can be confirmed. That's how the transfer of merits works. We use that same channel, the connection which we build over many years with the people we love and care for. So that's transfer of merits. And the last question, how should we approach sex in regards to attaining enlightenment? Not on this retreat. Especially sex between a married couple. Okay, on this retreat, you should know the rules of a retreat. Should actually first of all say the noble silence from here on in. So, no more chatting together. You've explained, you've got used to the place, you've relaxed. There's no reason to speak to one another unless there is a real important thing to say. So most retreats we keep this quiet, because when you keep this quiet, you don't speak so much, you find you don't have so many thoughts in your head. So the two are connected together. So if you want to calm this mind, just calm this first of all, the mouth first of all. It doesn't mean no speech. If there is a fire, you say fire. You don't go searching around for pen and paper until you find one. This is a pen gone. Can't find a pen. Has anyone got a pen? And then write down fire. By that time, everything is burned down. That is not called noble silence. That's called stupid silence. So if there's something to say it. But don't go into long conversations. At first it feels uncomfortable. It feels weird. That with your friend, with your wife, your husband, you can't say anything. But after a few days, it actually feels so wonderful. You don't need to connect with others with words. With body language, a smile. Just, you see that, somebody likes an egg or something for breakfast, and it's the last egg, you take it and just give it to them. It's silence, you don't need all these words. Actions speak louder than words. So be kind to one another, smile to one another, open the door for somebody, be really sort of considerate for them. And that way, it's called noble silence. So try that. And we also keep the 8 precepts usually on retreats, which is the no hanky-panky rule, the no sex rule, which means we treat one another not as sexual objects, but as human beings. Just with kindness and with love, and with just not asking anything out of each other, not through physical pleasure, but through something which is much higher, this wonderful immaterial love. I'm just kind to you. Don't need to have this hormonal interaction, which is all it really is, with the sex stuff. So, but this is on retreat, so no sex in a temple, when we are. And look at me, I've been celibate for 42 years. Right, 43 years, I think. 43 years, I'm a happy monk. So you don't need sex to be happy, be content. So, and it's also, you find that meditation gets you far deeper into happiness. So usually we don't sort of worry about sort of sex when we're in a retreat. And if you're a married couple, well, you are here, just, you're just friends. You're not really married when you're here. When you go out afterwards, married again. You have to do your duties, yeah. So it's just like you don't work when you're here, but when you leave, you have to work. Here you can let go, you don't need to plan anything. But when you leave here, you have to plan again. So this is just to see what it's like, just to be celibate for 8 days, 7 days, just to feel what it's like. It's really good, it's kind, it's peaceful. And that's when you're here. When you get out, if it is between a married couple, again, that physical contact has to be a complete letting go, surrender, not trying to get something out of somebody, but just as a natural part of the usual hormonal part, being kind, giving people some sensitivity. But I already asked you, why do you ask me these sorts of questions? What do I know about this? Like that. I still don't mind answering questions on anything. That is also why there was this one fellow, he used to go to the Armadale group, and he was a radio, no, not a presenter, but he was, I think, the producer of radio shows in the Perth station 6PR. And because, it's one of the big radio stations here in Perth, and because he'd been coming to all my talks, he said, wow, it's so good answering questions. Why didn't you come on a radio show? I produced many of them, and I was sure you'll be a hit. And again, I'd never been on a radio show before that time, not a talkback one, so I said, yeah, sure, give it a try. And because I was busy and I was heedless, I should have been more careful, I never asked what type of show it was. And it was the only time I could go, it was on a Friday after the talk at Nollamara, a show from 10 p.m. to 12 p.m. And of course I arrived late, just in time just to rush up into the studio, and just sit down, put the headphones on, and just as soon as I did that, we were live. So I couldn't do very much. And the poor fellow, the presenter, that was a time, never had time to get his tongue around my name. So he apologized afterwards, but he called me Mr. Monk. That's good enough, I don't mind that. Mr. Monk. And so he opened the show. Good evening, everybody. Tonight we have 2 special guests on our show. We have Mr. Monk. He's the abbot of a monastery around Perth. And we also have the second presenter, Dr. Gabriel Morrissey, who you all know is the expert on sex. And that's when I got a bit concerned. What show am I on? And it was on adult themes. So it was everybody in the audience, they could phone in anonymously with their questions on sexual dysfunction, problems they have, whatever it is. And that's the show I was on. This Dr. Gabriel Morrissey, he's a professor at university, he's written many best-selling books. But what was weird was after a few minutes, I answered a few questions, then all the questions you could choose, this question is for the professor or Mr. Monk, they were all asking me, Mr. Monk. I got all the questions. And it was weird. Why me? What do I know? But I made it up as I went along, and it was really good answers. I was very popular. The expert. Life is weird like that. When you know the mind, you know some psychology, it's amazing. You can apply that anywhere. So it was really good fun that time. Anyway, last question. When meditating, my mind wanders off a bit and cannot focus. How do I focus when meditating? Remember that little method which I told you last night? Emperor's 3 questions. So, when is the most important time? What is the most important meditation object? Whatever's happening right in front of you. So what do you mean, wandering off? Wandering off from where? From where you think you should be. So I should be on my breath. My breath is the most important meditation object, and it wanders off. You've got it wrong. Where it's wandering off, wherever it happens to be right now, That is the most important meditation object. Stay with that. If it wanders off, you wander off with it. You're mindful in this moment with whatever is occurring right now. So it can only wander away from you when you don't keep up with it. So you're always with this mind, wherever it is. That's what I do. People say, how come you travel so much? I do not travel. I don't go anywhere. I get on the aircraft moves, I don't. I sit perfectly still. When I get out, I'm in a different country. But I'm always there. So it's not as if my mind is in Perth and my body is, halfway between here and New York. Where I am, where my body is, my mind is, there I am as well. That's called mindfulness. So how can it wander away? You're with it all the time. You can only wander away where I don't want to be here. I should be with my breath. I should not be thinking of all these stupid thoughts. You're not caring, you're trying to cure your mind again. So wherever you are, that's where you're mindful. How can you wander away? And number two, wherever it happens to be, stupid thoughts, you're sleepy, you're restless, you're negative. It's there to teach you something. You're going to learn from this. So give it importance. Whatever's happening right now is the most important thing in the whole world. So stay with it. Then you never wander away. And the last thing is you care for it. Be kind to it. When you're kind to the monster of wandering mind, kind to the monster of ill will, kind to the monster of sleepiness, you're kind, you care for it. Oh, poor Ajahn Brahm, you're so tired, people make you work so hard, never mind. You care for it, and then it changes by itself. You cure it, and the monster gets bigger and uglier and more smelly. So that's how we deal with wandering mind. We go with it, wherever it goes. Whatever is happening right now, now's the only time.
How is too far away?
I
cannot catch it.
Can't catch it, not fast enough. Try and be with it. Be here, wherever you happen to be, because you always think you should be somewhere else. It's a crazy thing, should be somewhere else. Here I am. Stay here, in the present moment, and also, then it's no problem anymore. You don't cure the wandering mind. You go with it and care for it. See what happens. If you care for it, instead of trying to get rid of it, you don't feed it, then of course the monster vanishes completely away. So simple. You try to train your mind, so I'm not going to wander off ever again. It's like trying to train a husband. It doesn't work. You know that, I know that. Trying to train a wife, no way. Trying to train your kids. You don't train your kids, you care for them. And if you care for them, it's amazing, they'll always behave. You try and stop them, they'll find ways of getting away. So that is the wandering mind. Thank you for that question. It is now 18 minutes past 9, and it's time for you to wander off. But when you go back to your rooms, please take your mind with you. And when you go to sleep, don't try and be awake. So many people, people think it's a funny story, but it's so true. That people on these retreats, they come and ask me the questions that, I can't sleep at night. Please let me know a solution. And it's so obvious, I say. The last 2 or 3 days, this hasn't happened to you yet. Usually get this question after 2 or 3 days. I said, the last 2 or 3 days I've been watching you. When you're in this hall trying to meditate, you fall asleep. And when you go to your room to take a nap, you're always awake. So the solution's obvious. Next time you come in this hall to meditate, try to go to sleep. Don't watch your bed, try to go to sleep when you're sitting here and you'll be fully awake. And when you go to bed at night, don't try and go to sleep, try to meditate. And then you fall fast asleep really quickly.
That's what I did last night.
Yeah, there we go. Why? It's because you're trying too hard. Just be. Okay, there we go. So let's, at the end of the talk, we usually do what? Sadhu. 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 Yes, very good. So have a wonderful evening. See you tomorrow morning. Nothing is compulsory here. So, I think, what time are we supposed to start? 5 o'clock or something, for those of you who want to be here, 5:15, 10 past, whatever. We do some chanting at 6 o'clock here together, but you can do your own chanting in your own room if you want to. Snoring chanting. But I'll be here at 6 o'clock to do some morning chanting, the same as we did earlier, and afterwards we meditate till 6:45. Oh, so Michelle, who's my people who bring the breakfast? 6:45 tomorrow, not 7 o'clock. Gives people more chance to clean up afterwards. So 6:45 is breakfast time. We don't need a bell for breakfast. Once I say breakfast and 6:45, that has gone straight into your mind, conditioned. When I say what time we get up in the morning to do the meditation, remember what the time is? You've forgotten that already, 5 o'clock. Breakfast, we always remember. And so you come if you wish to. Even 6:45, you're a few minutes late, there's always breakfast there available for you. So I don't want any stress, okay? So you just come up, and if you feel really, really tired, if you find that your friend in the next room to you hasn't turned up for breakfast and it's maybe 6:15, just go and get a plate for them and give them breakfast in bed. Be kind. It's beautiful when people do things like that. Don't think, you lazy bum, I got up at 5 o'clock and you're still sleeping, you expect, ha ha ha, that teaches you a lesson. No. Just be kind. Okay, so let's go now and see you in the morning. Bye.